Put out block again? Okay.
Throw your blades!
RB. LB.
약속 말고 술대유.
Thank God it was the big guy first.
no samurai.
Hurry, Jingo!
Leader kill, let's go. Water stance 2. Sick. Increased legend. And that's what I call success. What else can I find? Can I salvage? What's inside the house? Oh, we found some blood there. And nothing else. Where do we go now? Okay, sick. That's completed. We did most of the question marks that was here. We did that. Alright, so I guess we can just travel.
Let's go.
We can explore the lands.
Challenge me.
I'm just fighting everybody. made for
I
another
saw a
village.
flock of birds circling in the sky, my lord. I went to see where they were, and found the most beautiful place. I sat and stared, lost track of time.
We all need inspiration these days. During times of conflict, warriors would visit such places and write haiku.
I heard the art of haiku prepares the mind and body for battle. Is it true, my lord?
It is. But you don't have to be a warrior to benefit from poetry.
I'm not doing that. Well, let's not get on the way.
My brother wanted to be a samurai, Lord Sakai. He built a bamboo training stand, spent a whole winter practicing on it.
Bamboo cutting. An excellent way to become a better swordsman. Perhaps I can join your brother in practice.
Sadly, he died of fever a few years ago. But every time I see a stand beneath its flag, I think of him.
And now, so will I. Thank you. Take care.
Alright, what can we do around here? It looks like nothing's happening. This just a random village. Farmstead. Oh, I can fast travel. Okay, we found the town,
Lit up the night sky.
village.
They have
The
weapons that
door
can
is just
fire
broken.
sound. No wonder they were able to destroy entire villages so quickly. And that's not all.
Oh shit!
Have you heard the explosion? My horse went off because of
I
this.
didn't mean to do that.
How are we supposed to fight back against such weapons?
I don't know. I'm just running around. I'm just opening the map, but I guess you are going to do that anyway. The winds are going.
Some kind of noise.
definitely a sportsman. Ooh, I got hides. Hides. Where's the other one? I think he ran off. Yeah, he gone. I don't know what that means.
Kishin! Han! Ready? Yaska! Kishin! Han!
Caught the flag. Let's do Jin Journey. Active Tales. Major leader increase. Focus hearing. Major legend increase. Half bow. Can we do both of them like later on, or can we just choose one? I'm assuming we can do both of them soon. Let's do the Warriors Code. Find Yuna South Kenshi fishing village.
That's Yuna.
Bro, I'm blind. Okay.
Jin, you found me.
You handled that well.
I should have heard him coming. Let myself get distracted. These people saw Mongols marching prisoners upriver. They had a blacksmith with them.
Your brother?
Sounds like it. They were taking him to a camp near the Canada Inlet.
I know the place.
The warrior's cool.
Did you find any samurai to free your uncle?
Not yet. I'm still searching.
I'm sure you'll find someone soon. Taka can help you after we save him. Hard to believe I might see him soon.
He's lucky to have you.
You might disagree.
That's what siblings are for.
What about you? Any brothers or sisters?
Lord Shimura is my only family.
What will you do when he's free?
Take a breath. Because then I'll know there's hope for our island.
You feel that strongly?
I've watched him win victory against impossible odds.
Bro, where we going?
And after your brother is free, what then?
I'm just gonna steal
Honestly,
shit.
I haven't had time to think about it.
Cause that's what I do best.
You're riding well. How are your wounds?
Ooh, what's up?
Mostly healed. Your bandages did the trick.
That's a 10 out of 10.
You don't share much about how you feel, do you?
Nope. I do.
I suppose you're right. My uncle taught me that a samurai masters his emotions, like you master a horse or a blade.
That's a hard way to live.
It's not supposed to be easy.
Oh, they're delayed. Excuse me. Oh,
There's a spot up ahead that overlooks the river.
Should give us a good view of the Mongol camp. There's the camp. Tough to get inside.
The Mongols threw that place together in days. There has to be a way in. Let's look.
We need to reach Taka without putting him in danger.
We'll find a safe approach. Defenses in back are formidable. We could scale the rocks on that side.
If they're loose, they might give way. Alert the guards.
The front wall there is still under construction.
Could be a way in.
how can they see from that far?
We can look for a gap in the front wall. Slip inside.
And cut down the Mongols where they stand.
If something goes wrong, they'll kill the prisoners. I've seen them do it. We have to go in quietly.
Like thieves.
What's wrong with that?
Before the samurai, this island was ruled by criminals. We changed that by creating order and delivering justice in the open. We live by a code of honor. And sometimes we die by it. Warriors like my father, who just wanted to give us a safer home.
I want the same thing. But we have to fight back.
I promised my uncle I'd never break our code.
Then bend it. To save my family. And what's left of yours.
Let's get a closer look. See what we're up against.
We should wait until it gets darker.
Let's move.
Taka. He's been through a lot. Even before the invasion.
But you took care of him.
Someone had to. He hated when I stole. But it was that or starve. I didn't have a choice.
I didn't choose to be a samurai either. But going against my instincts, my code.
It's better than getting wiped out by the Mongols. We have to fight back. Any way we can.
Through here.
If they see us, they'll kill the prisoners.
Then we better stay quiet. And open their throats. There's no other way.
That's crazy.
What do you think, Jin?
The bear's running with a limp. Your arrow wounded him.
This is when a beast is most dangerous. Remain alert.
Yes, uncle.
Keep after him.
You gotta track a
I
bear.
didn't think bears lived here.
They don't. But the fighting in Yarikawa drove some this way.
So it's the rebels' fault. We should feed them to this bear as punishment.
We are not barbarians, Jin.
Okay, now I can see because the sun's in my eye.
The bear stumbled here. Is it dying?
No. But we're getting closer.
How far does
Stay
this bear
ready.
go?
Yes, uncle. If it's still alive, can I take the shot?
Prove you can control your emotions. Then, perhaps.
We got him.
Careful. He could still be alive.
He is surely dead, dude.
This arrow should not have killed him.
Look, uncle. There's a gash in his side. Not from an arrow.
Assassin! From Yarikawa!
Traitor! You would stab the Chido in the back!
No, Sakai! Control yourself. We are not criminals, like this man here. We are samurai.
He tried to kill you!
He must answer for this crime with his life.
And look him in the eye. And teach him that samurai never acts out of anger or fear. And take his life with honor. fight. We face our enemy head on. And when we take their life, we look them in the eye with courage and respect. This is what makes us samurai.
That's one way to
Only
think.
cowards strike from the shadows.
Jin, what's wrong?
Jin.
Let's find your brother.
We can't let them see us.
Use all your senses. Think and move like a thief.
Please focus hearing relating nearby enemies position while slowing your movement. Okay, nice. Okay, that's person type.
Yuna, is that?
No. Not Taka.
Oh, good.
There. A prisoner.
Taka?
Let's find out. No. It's not Taka.
How'd you get in here?
We need to go. We'll talk when it's safe.
Come on.
Let's get to the river. We'll be safe there. Are you with the Straw Hat Ronin?
I was. Cut ties with them after they started running low on rations.
Lord Shimura's been captured, and I could use some extra swords to free him. Are you looking for work?
No, but the other Straw Hats may be. Last I heard, they were hunting Mongols in Tsutsu Prefecture, by the coast near the Kishi grasslands.
This way. We're looking for my brother, a blacksmith named Taka.
Don't know him, but a lot of prisoners move through here.
You said they were moving the slaves. Where?
They mentioned Azamo Bay. And there was a blacksmith in the last group. Young man with a beard. From Yarikawa, maybe.
You'd better be right.
I hope you find your blacksmith.
Taka's alive in Osmo Bay.
town is surrounded by walls. Rushing in without a plan will only put him in more danger.
I have a friend who might be able to get us inside.
Find him. The sooner we rescue Taka, the sooner we save my uncle.
Jin. Taka will forge whatever tool you need as soon as he's free. But after that, we're leaving the island.
You've seen what the Mongols are doing here. Lord Shimura can stop them. Stay. Help us fight for a home.
Home is wherever Taka and I go. My friend lives in Azamo Prefecture, on the border with Tsutsu.
I'll find you there.
I know this wasn't easy. Going against your code.
I did what I had to.
Thank you.
Lord Shimura, you deserve better than this. Convince your people to stop resisting, and you can walk free. Stop wasting my time. Kill me. You think you've lost everything. But your nephew is still alive. My men control the roads. They build war camps near your towns. They see everything, and they will find him. Lord Sakai will fight until his last breath. As will I. You love him. Just as you love your people. You're a father to them. Will you abandon your children? I want to make them your slaves.
The war is called. We completed it. The warning sign, maximum health increase.
The Mongols are everywhere. In a fight, they will surround me like wolves. I need to find new methods to keep them at bay.
New ghost weapon unlocked. Kunai.
A well-balanced blade I can throw to catch a foe by surprise and finish them off.
We traveled pretty far. Okay, so let's check out our gear. Saka steel. God damn it. Yeah. Still don't have enough iron. Empty charm slot. Killing enemies restore a moderate amount of health. Yes. I don't want no headgear. I miss having my other account at so many points that I can't redeem weights Subs. I might make that into a sub thing only because I need subs. I don't have any, so I might turn working out into earning subs because I don't have any. So yeah, what's up, Az? Where I been? Where you been? Took you long enough. Is it
Ain't
working?
no way, Ninja.
What do you mean? Why not? Ooh, parries? Sprint towards your enemies and slash them with a quick strike. A evasion strike useful against slow moving enemies. Parry a unblockable attack from Mongol swords. Perfect parries recover a small amount of health. What are these things? Harness the power of guarding the wind. Soak in the resurrection waters. Complete bamboo strikes. Okay, Fox done. Stances. I already learned this. I'm gonna save everything. What do you mean there's no way? Why not? You don't think I deserve it? And what is good with you, Az? How is your Saturday going? And where is everybody at? Well, I don't have nowhere to go. What is this location? Why ain't there no way? The one thing I need to know how to do is how to make Texas Peach show up on screen. That would be cool. I don't know how to do that yet though. I gotta learn that. Okay, never mind. What's going on over here? It just looks like a regular village. I've been through this. No, I haven't. This is a new village.
As if losing our homes wasn't bad enough. We have to see Mongols in them as well.
I've seen too many homes raided, burned to the ground.
They took a home nearby a few days ago. The man who lived there won't leave the area. He keeps begging for help.
I'll try and find him.
A place to call home. That's where she wants me to go. Or I go after I go check out what is that question of. Yeah.
Here!
I think I can whistle like that.
So,
Here! Master Sora!
If you have hides to spare, I can offer you something in return. Come back if you need anything, my lord. Would you like to see what I have?
Merchant,
Lord
sure.
Sakai, you survived the invasion?
So far. Have we met before?
No, my lord. But I watched you ride into battle. Please accept this gift. If you wear it, they say a spirit will lead you to whatever you're looking for.
Sounds like something you could use yourself.
Not with Mongols prowling the countryside. But if it leads you to any flowers, bring them to me, or other traders. We can use them to fashion dyes.
I'll remember that. Thank you.
I knew we'd lose samurai.
Sword kit, armor dyes, hat. Let's look at the hats. Why would you have that? Oh, that's kind of nice.
If you can bring more, it's yours. Go with...
How do I wear it? Oh, it's called so drippy. This one's nice too. But like, I like the bag.
protection.
I'm telling you, the Mongol Emperor's throne sits on the tallest mountain at...
Another samurai? Alive? I thought Lord Jinroku was the only one.
I don't know the name.
He's in Kashine, my lord. I'm sure he would be happy to see you.
I'm curious to meet him.
They said to protect us.
Okay, where will he be? Okay, gotcha. Copy. Roger that. So we get fast travel here because that's the closest. Then a place called home. So fast travel here. What is the point of the Fox Den? What do you do here? What's the point of this shit? Inner shrines needed to earn a minor charm slot. Not complete. What do you do? I don't know the fox went. Anyway, that's not what I came here to do. I keep doing that.
That's my Sora.
Let's go, Sora!
Calm down. Who's been taken?
The invaders took our house. Down the road. My wife is there. With my son.
You left your family behind?
What choice did I have? I'm no warrior.
I'll help them. Stay here.
A place to call home. Going this way.
Stand and fight! Samurai, talk off the wall! Dasher Samurai! Bastin Samurai! Der Mund ist klar.
To the wife and child. No sign of the family here. Maybe outside. Laundry, still damp. The attack was sudden.
Family.
A lot of blood. Someone was killed here.
Well, that's what blood means. Oh, I was a dummy.
Bodies were dragged, thrown in the water. A child's toy. His family didn't survive. I should let him know.
My lord, did you find them?
Well, I don't have them.
Your family was killed. I'm sorry.
Why didn't you save them? I ran. Like a coward. I should be dead too.
It's not your fault. Don't let their deaths be in vain. Resist the invaders. Help those in need.
Yes, my lord.
Charm of well-being. Unity charm. Dude, that whistle's awesome. Next, the other side of honor. There's a whole fortress, bro. Oh, this is empty, bro. I hear people though.
Someday we'll go for a peaceful life. So peaceful here. What is this place?
Open up.
I
You made
thought
it.
you were Lord Jinroku, but you're another samurai. Welcome, my lord.
Another samurai?
You haven't heard of Lord Jinroku? He's a legendary samurai.
I'd like to meet him. When will he return?
Soon, join us for dinner. Perhaps he'll share one of his grand stories with you.
I'm back from my dangerous mission. Don't worry, I'm unharmed. Oh, I wasn't expecting a visitor. We're happy to have you, of course.
Thank you. I didn't realize any other samurai had survived.
It was a fierce battle, wasn't it? The beaches of Komatsu ran red with blood that terrible day.
We fought at Komoda.
Of course. Forgive me, I'm tired from a long ride. Please, have Nabe show you the bath. We can speak more over dinner.
Please follow me, my lord.
I don't know where she went. I was not paying attention to her.
Over here!
But where? Over Wanda?
How much
Oh,
do
there
you
you
know
are.
of Lord Jinroku?
He tells us
you.
everything. If it wasn't for him, we would have lost the
I
whole
kind of got
island.
lost.
When you met him, was he armed?
He gave everything to save Tsushima except his horse. It's at the stables.
My bath can wait. I want to look at his horse.
Bro, I want to take a bath.
Normal
I want
tools.
to take a dip in the lake.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
All you looked at was a fucking brush.
A farm horse. Never seen battle. I know this saddle. It belonged to Lord Higuchi. Shinroku is no samurai. I'll get the truth from him.
Imposter!
Where is Jinroku?
He left quickly after you went to the bath. It must have been important.
I'll find him.
You gotta follow his tracks. Going the wrong way. Take that back. I'm not a detective. I miss them all their hard work. Is he on the roof? I swear I'm a good detective.
We need to talk.
Stop running, you fool! Stop! Before it's too late!
What?
I don't want to kill you. Stop!
I wasn't hurting anyone.
Oh, shit. I don't know where he went. Did he go this way? I don't even know, bro. Shit. I got got. I got got.
I challenge you to a duel.
You want to fight me?
Yes, it's the only way.
If that's your wish, I accept.
He's already dead.
I don't want to die. I surrender.
He
I'm
got
sorry.
scared just by pure aura, bro.
Tell me who you really are.
Just by pure aura, he got
Nobody.
scared.
I was just trying to survive.
You're impersonating a samurai and bringing dishonor to the name. And you're taking advantage of those women.
I know. Please, my lord, let me live. I'll never go back there again.
Leave. And if I ever see you wearing that armor again, we will finish our duel.
I wasn't hurting anyone.
Oh, upgrade available. Another location. That shit deep, bruh. We made it.
Awesome weapons.
Nice. Without no pinpoint either.
May I assist you, my lord?
No, don't need anything. Hello, welcome in, viewer.
May Kami protect your path, my lord.
My mother believed Inari is my guardian. She saw a fox chasing fireflies outside our home the day I was born.
She knew that foxes are Inari's messengers in our world. When you see one, always follow where it leads.
I will. Thank you.
I'm not gonna take that advice. But thank you for telling me that.
Yoshi Springs. Perhaps someone at the inn can direct me to Sensei Ishikawa.
This place is sick.
You don't have a bow?
I lost mine at Komoda Beach.
I'd give you one if I had it. Though, if Sensei Ishikawa is alive, I hear he has a fine collection of weapons. Bring one to me, and I'll make sure it's in the best possible condition.
I'll see you again.
An honor to walk
Well, how do I talk to him?
Have you seen the birds, Lord Sakai?
What birds are you looking for?
The golden ones. Songs that remind you of more peaceful times.
Ah, they were my mother's favorite. She used to say they knew our island better than any other creature.
I believe it, my lord. If it weren't so dangerous, I'd follow one. See where the golden bird leads me.
Maybe I'll do just that. But you should wait until our home is safe once more.
I will, Lord Sakai. Thank you.
Travel the tide will pause when artifacts are nearby.
I'll get off Tsushima. You'll see. So you'll find someone to take you?
Well, they gossiping about something.
It's the only way. Where will you go? The Mongols in China aren't fully. The mainland.
I'm assuming I just need to find somebody.
Trade is difficult in these times, my lord.
You listen to the stories from Yosen.
That long storyteller?
A samurai? Right?
I'm looking for Sensei Ishikawa.
I thought he fell at Komoda.
He didn't. Where's his dojo?
To the forest. I can show you the way, my lord. Did the sensei not fight at Komoda?
No.
He came to town for a surprise the day before the invasion. Hardly spoke a word, but he'd always been a private man. My lord, are the stories of Sensei Ishikawa true?
What stories?
They say he sank a pirate ship with a single arrow.
Not the
There's an
ship,
artifact nearby.
but he shot a pirate captain from the shore. Routed the whole fleet.
I'd hate to cross an archer like that.
Do you deserve death?
I hope not, my lord.
Then you're safe from Ishikawa.
I'll wait for you to continue.
My lord, don't go into the forest of Kashine. They're haunted by angry spirits. Dead samurai, eager to spill blood.
We're in the middle of a war. I doubt spirits are the cause of this.
People go into the woods and never come out. Mongol and Japanese alike. The bodies that turn up have all been killed by samurai blades.
Blades are needed by men, not spirits. I'll look into this.
Shall we continue?
The sensei's dojo is up there on the cliff.
Just need a warm place to sleep.
Never had to before. Not like this.
What happened? Oh. I'm up.
Thank you. I'll take it from here.
I'm scouting.
One more question,
I
my
thought something
lord.
happens to the game.
May I ask why the sensei left his post as archery master to Clan Nagao?
No one knows.
Strange. Giving up service to a great lord for this.
This bit interesting game made. I like it quite a lot, Jabeda.
Why was that so formal? That was very formal. Why is it not louder? It needs to be louder. Hold on. It's not loud enough for some reason. Why does it feel so low? I don't know why it's so low. Anyway, yeah, I miss it. It should be loud. I'm trying to make it louder. Chat, change the plans. I might go out. My friends are nearby and they want me to come chill, so I might go chill with them. But I'm trying to make this louder before that happens. I don't know why it's so low. It used to be louder, no? Thank you. I definitely want to play this game more. It's really fun and it's definitely right up my alley. It's definitely right up what I like to play. Okay. Excuse me. Alright, that's gone. Let's put that back up. Excuse me. Jesus Christ. Try it again. It definitely used to be louder. Try again. Well, I will definitely be streaming tomorrow. Again. I'm definitely gonna be streaming again tomorrow. Like I said, try to get back on the grind, you know? We need more viewers. We need more eyes. We need to start branching out again. Oh, did not mean to do that.
Sensei Ishikawa's dojo.
We got a new headband. Oh, didn't mean to do that.
There was a struggle here. Better look around. Dried blood. The fight wasn't recent.
We need to branch out. We need to meet new
Someone
people
was
again.
wounded.
We need
Remove the
to
arrow.
raid new channels. Try to make new friends, but that don't seem like that ever happens. Because I don't really play with anybody. Or really talk to anybody, really not much, you know. I guess it's just a me thing. I guess I don't really know how to socialize with other people that well.
Don't move! Sensei Ishikawa,
But we are so close to
Lord
800.
Sakai's boy.
50 more.
You survived Komoda. We could have used your bow. I was on my way when bandits attacked me. Were you expecting them to return? A samurai is never caught by surprise. I'm sorry about Lord
What
Shimura.
y'all doing tonight?
He was a good man. He's alive. Taken captive by the Mongols. Then there's hope. That's why I've come. Help me save him. I can't. My student is missing. A skilled archer. I will help you look. Then you can both help me free Lord Shimura. Try and keep up, Sakai.
Sakai. The Tale of Sensei Shikawa. I feel like I said that wrong. But that was definitely right.
Who else made it out of Komoda? No one knows. Are there any others who can fight back? Besides us? I don't know yet. You'd better find out quickly. We can't free your uncle by ourselves. I can help track your student. I need no help tracking Tomoe. Tomoe? A woman? From what clan? No clan. A peasant. But she can outshoot any samurai I know. Even you, Sakai.
I ran faster than you.
The last time I saw you was 10 years ago.
Damn, okay.
You came to study with me.
W. Grant.
You remember? I remember most of the students I reject. Instead, you took this Tomoe as your student. You showed promise. Tomoe is a prodigy. Mongols! Who will fight? Sandra Deshte, samurai.
Oh, they're scared.
They fought well enough at Komoda.
I almost did friendly fire.
Even Tanuki can catch a tiger when it's sleeping.
I almost did friendly fire. That was close.
Stay close to your sensei.
Nigga, what? I've been kicking ass since day one, bro.
Come. The Mongols took Fort Nakayama. The patrol likely came from there. That's close to the hot springs. The town will be the next to fall. Something happened here. An ambush. Look around. Rice and millet. Left uneaten. The attack was sudden. A Japanese quiver. A gift to my greatest student. Blood, but not much. No one died. I fear the worst.
What happened, old man? Tell me the tale.
Tomoe would never leave that quiver behind. Unless she was pursued. Or captured. To what end? Interrogation. Torture. Worse. They may be doing the same to Lord Shimura. Fear is a weapon, Sakai. Do not let the Mongols use it against you. Your student. Where would they take her? Fort Nakayama. The fort is nearby.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
I should have fought the Komoda with you. Better you didn't. We lost enough there. Why did the samurai fail? The Mongols fought like animals. Wrong answer. I saw it with my own eyes. An archer's aim relies not on eyes, but on body, mind, and spirit. Stop here. We need to
Text
talk.
me to stop. Damn. I guess
What's wrong, Sissy?
it's probably
This
the
bow
Q.
was a gift to me from Lord
Hold
Nagao
on.
many years ago. It's a beautiful weapon. Of course it
Probably
is.
the Q.
And there's
I
nothing
don't
more
know. I need
painful
to
to me
I
than
need
a
to learn
perfect
how
bow
to make it
ineptly used.
unlimited.
Then it's a good thing you're giving it to me. Who said anything about giving?
I need to find some stuff.
Prove you can shoot straight. I'll let you borrow it. Try it out before we go into battle.
A gentle rain. Hello, Ninja.
Oh, there you go. I guess that's the only louder it can go. But I feel like it can go louder than that though. Okay. It's loud now, I think. That's gross. That's gross. Let me know when you're downstairs. Trying to save it.
Aim for that lamp closest to us.
I got a half bow. I'm calling the cops.
The further the target, the more your arrow drops.
I want the archery.
Now the one further down the road.
Shit looks
On the
sick,
left.
dude.
Not bad. Let's see if you can hit the one furthest away. Focus, Sakai.
I'm getting used to the grip.
How does it feel?
Like it was made for me.
It wasn't. So take good care of it.
I will.
Let's
Thank
go.
you.
A bow like this would have helped at Komoda.
It is a good bow. But victory is won by warriors, not weapons.
We haven't seen the Mongols fire weapons.
They have not yet won. Fort Nakayama.
I hope your student is inside.
Fuck some
Get a
shit
better look
up.
at the defenses from up there. This spot is
I'm a
perfect.
I'll find a way in. Open the gate. Did we hit them?
You always charge into battle with your hakama half-tied?
You have a better idea?
Patience, Sakai. The Mongols will send men to find their missing patrol. When they open the gates, we strike.
The longer we delay, the longer Tomoe remains in danger.
She can take care of herself. Survey the battlefield. What can we use to our advantage?
Hornet nests.
I would not
One shot
trust
could
that.
stir them up.
In a million years.
Mongols will
That's
face
crazy.
the sting of insects and arrows.
Those barrels could do some damage.
We'll find out.
An arrow in those hanging lights will kick up sparks.
And start fires.
They have many archers.
They're skilled, but we are better. When the gates open, distract the enemy and rain arrows on their heads.
Then we storm the fort and free Tomoe.
Good. Now we wait. They're opening the gates. Wait for my signal. Get ready. Now, send them to their ancestors.
That's one way to kill a group of people. Oh no! I got caught up. Damn, he caught me good. Okay. You think I was dead, right? Okay, I'm coming. Why don't you come upstairs real quick? How about that? Or y'all just want to go? Y'all just want to leave?